Hi everyone, welcome back. We have such a special video for you today because our sweet goat Penny gave birth. Now my intention in sharing this video is not only to maybe help someone who's experiencing their first goat birth, but also just as an appreciation video. I was just so touched by the experience of getting to witness Penny give birth, and so I just want to celebrate that and share that. Now, just a little recap. Penny is a 2-year-old Alpine Doe, and she was bred to a buck named Perry back in late October 2021. This was her first time kidding, and it was also our first time having a goat birth on the property, but it was also our first time being present and being witness to a birth. So I did some reading and watched videos and asked different people, kind of just to get an idea of what to expect and, what to look for. And I pretty much heard everything. So just like anything in the world, it seems like, people have such a varied way of thinking about birth and interacting with birth. So for us, we wanted to be present as long as Penny seemed comfortable with that. So it was really important to me to just kind of watch and to monitor and check in, and if she ever seemed uncomfortable with our presence, then I would have left the birthing stall. But she was very comforted by our presence. That was really apparent that she wanted us there. And so yeah, we really took the approach that we wanted to be present, but as hands-off as possible. So we really wanted the birthing space to be as undisturbed, quiet, calm as possible. On the morning of March 22nd, I went out to do the morning milking and fill hay and water and all the chores because Candy is still in milk. And I noticed Penny's udder had popped. In my reading, I had heard that at some point the udder will substantially get bigger. There will be like a noticeable pop, a noticeable bigness to the udder. And once that occurs, she is likely to give birth within 24 hours. And so that morning I noticed the udder had definitely popped. There was a substantial shift in her udder. That was one sign that I noticed. And then I also noticed her sides were really sunken in a lot more than they ever have been. So I left her just out with Candy and just kind of let them do their normal morning routine, and I went and did some chores, but I just kept checking in. And I noticed by about 11, she had laid down in this outdoor shelter that's in their pen, which is kind of unusual. They usually lay in the shade somewhere or in the barn. They don't lay in that outdoor shelter a lot anymore. So I thought maybe she was trying to isolate a little bit. And so I invited her to come into the barn with me and closed her stall so that she could isolate in the barn rather than outside. She cozied up in the barn, and so she could still see Candy. Candy could come and go in and out of the stall next door. And at that point, I just decided to grab my chair, grab some books, and I just hunkered down for the day and just hung out with her in the stall. And like I mentioned earlier, I had planned to leave if she seemed at all uncomfortable by my presence, but it was very apparent that she wanted me there. I noticed her really relaxing while I was there. So yeah, I decided to stay in there and just kind of watch her and just be with her. And so from about 11 a.m. to 4 p.m., I would kind of consider that was like the first stage of her labor. So there was a lot of, kind of getting up and down. She did a little bit of pawing at the ground just before she laid down. But she was, adjusting and shifting, and I kept some alfalfa and hay in there, and so she would nibble on it periodically. She would chew her cud. She seemed, she seemed calm, but she seemed kind of fidgety. At about noon, I noticed a little bit of white mucus present right at her vulva. She was still chewing her cud. She was definitely breathing faster than normal. And again, just kind of still getting up and down and shifting and adjusting. And then at about 1, she started to have some mild contractions. So she was usually laying down and I would notice her legs would kind of straighten, and when they got a little bit more intense, her neck would kind of stretch, and she would kind of crane her neck towards her back end a little bit, but she wasn't vocalizing or anything like that, so just kind of more mild contractions. By about 2:30, I noticed the contractions almost seemed to kind of slow down a little bit. It didn't necessarily like ramp up towards birth. They didn't seem, from my outside perspective, they didn't seem to intensify, or their duration or time between didn't change. And so at about 2:30, it seemed to kind of slow. It seemed like she was maybe taking a little rest and laying down a lot. She was still nibbling at alfalfa here and there and chewing her cud. She was yawning and things like that. And then at about 4, she seemed more pushy. I remember turning to Josh and saying, like, I don't know if I'm gonna know what a pushing contraction is, like when she starts pushing. But then at 4:10, she had her first pushing contraction, and I for sure knew the difference. It was more of a whole body experience, and she definitely started vocalizing once she started pushing. So the first kid was born. She turned out to be a doeling, and she had some fluid around her mouth and a little bit in there. She was sneezing a little bit just to kind of get it out, but she was doing a fine job of expelling any fluid, and Mama was licking, and so all we did was put her on a towel and then just brought her right up towards Mama's face so she could continue to lick as she had her next contractions. The next kid came out so fast. He turned out to be a buckling, and we pretty much did the same thing. He didn't seem to have quite as much fluid around his mouth, but I just did a little bit of a wipe, and then we put him on a towel and then just brought him right up to Mom's face as well on the other side. And she pretty much just went back and forth, licking both of them off nice and clean and dry. So the placenta began to emerge around 5:04 p.m. And during this time, Mama was up and down a bit, but she was still licking the kids and getting them nice and clean and dry. And the kids were up and down and trying out those new legs of theirs and getting up a lot and falling a lot and kind of walking around. But the kids seemed like they were interested in nursing. They seemed like they were trying to find the teat, but Mama seemed a little bit like she wanted to get the placenta out before nursing. The placenta came all the way out at about 6:32 p.m. And right at that time, the kids found the teat and began nursing right away. And Mama ate the whole entire placenta while the kids nursed. So that about wraps up Penny's birth story. We have our sweet doeling named Joy, and then we have our sweet buckling named Iggy. Penny has just been the best mama, super attentive, super caring to the babies, and everyone is just doing so great.